How my $2 million turned Christmas into a family nightmare. Listen, if someone had told me a month ago that my parents, Martha and Robert, would openly call me a greedy egoist at the Christmas dinner table, I would have just laughed in their faces. But unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. And it all started because my younger sister, Emily, found out about my damn money. $2 million. It wasn't an inheritance, a lottery win, or anything criminal. It was what I earned myself over the last 8 years, busting my butt in an IT startup that my friend and I scaled up and successfully sold in early November. A month ago, I finally received the main chunk of the money after all the deductions and taxes. I didn't tell anyone, absolutely no one, except my financial advisor. I planned to announce it quietly, after the holidays, when things settled down. I wanted to renovate my house, maybe buy something nice for my parents. Just quietly continue with my life. It had only been 2 weeks since the money hit my account. Those 2 weeks were probably the calmest of my entire life. You know that feeling when you can just breathe out and look at the world, knowing that you did it. For the first time in years, I truly relaxed. Emily, by the way, was clinging to me those 2 weeks. She's 27, she's been struggling with freelance work for a few years, taking on everything she can, but she doesn't have a stable income. She constantly whines that she has bad luck. She lives in her rented studio apartment and always complains that everyone else is rich while life hasn't given her a chance. My parents always felt sorry for her, saying she had a delicate psychological constitution and just needed support. My stable but modest earnings in IT were always taken for granted. A week before Christmas, Martha called me, which wasn't unusual, but this time her voice was unusually strained. "David, we need to talk to you, seriously," she said, without even asking how I was. I immediately felt that something was wrong. Maybe health problems? I drove over to their house the next day. Robert was sitting in the living room looking like he'd just been told the world was ending. "Sit down, son," he said, pointing to the couch. They looked like judges, and I was the accused. "What happened?" I asked. Martha looked at Robert, then at me and said, "Emily just called. She urgently needs $15,000. She has credit card debt, and she's being evicted from her apartment." I leaned back on the couch. "And why is that my problem? I'm not her bank." "David, how can you say that? She's your sister." Martha was already starting to raise her voice. "She needs help. She doesn't have stability, you know that. You earn a lot. You could help her." "Mom, I earn enough to support myself. I don't earn enough to constantly bail her out of debt." "And what then? Will she need something else?" I tried to speak calmly, but I was already annoyed by this constant pressure. "But you have savings," Robert suddenly interjected, looking past me. That's when I tensed up. "Savings? How do they know?" "What savings? I just live within my means." I lied. "Don't pretend you don't understand." Martha pulled out her old phone, opened a photo on it, and handed it to me. The screen showed my banking app, displaying the total sum. Yes, that one, almost $2 million. A screenshot clearly not taken by me. Emily must have somehow managed to access my old laptop when she visited me a few weeks ago. I'm sure this is her handiwork. She always had a talent for digging through other people's things when she needed something. At that moment, a week before Christmas, I realized my calm month was over. "Are you serious? You've been spying on me?" My voice shook. I couldn't believe my eyes or my ears. Robert looked away. "We weren't spying. Emily just accidentally saw it on your laptop when you went to the bathroom." She was shocked, and so were we. I just sat there staring at them, feeling everything inside turn cold. This wasn't accidental. This was brazen, targeted theft of information and now blackmail. "Fine, I have the money. So what?" I asked, trying to seem as detached as possible. "So what? You should help her. You have $2 million, David. And she's broke," Martha exclaimed. "We're not asking for much. Just $15,000 so she can clear her debt and start a new life." Why should I start her new life at my expense? They just didn't get it. This was my money, my hard work, my sleepless nights. I wasn't obligated to be their benefactor, but I didn't get a chance to finish. "Because you're our son," Robert sharply cut me off. And you shouldn't be so greedy. It was said in a tone as if I had just confessed to serial murder. Greedy. The person who always helped, who never asked for anything in return. But this was only the beginning. We've decided, Martha said firmly. You will give Emily that $15,000. It's not up for discussion. I didn't answer. I just got up, took the phone from her, and deleted the photo. They can think whatever they want, but that money was mine. I walked out of the house, slamming the door. That's how, a week before the most family-oriented holiday, my life turned into a battlefield. And the worst was still to come. Christmas was supposed to be perfect, but it ended up being the day my parents outright stated that my sister deserved my money more than I did. And that is not a metaphor. The moment I slammed the door and drove away from my parents' place, I felt this heavy, suffocating silence in my car. It wasn't the silence of peace. It was the silence of a truce before a major battle. 2 weeks separated me from Christmas, and I knew every single minute until then would be poisoned by this knowledge. The knowledge that my family had violated my trust, and that Emily was now actively manipulating them. I didn't call them back. I needed space. They tried, of course. Martha texted first. David, we just want to protect you. Don't throw away your family over money. Protect me? They were protecting her from the consequences of her own financial irresponsibility, using my success as a bailout fund. Robert sent a short, sharp text. Think about your sister. This is your responsibility. Responsibility. It always came back to that word, used only when it suited them. I spent the next few days in a fog. The joy of the startup sale, the feeling of financial security, it all evaporated. My $2 million didn't feel like freedom anymore. They felt like a target painted on my back. I kept wondering how Emily got the screenshot. I realized I must have left my old work laptop open on my dining table when she visited about 3 weeks ago. I went to the kitchen for coffee, and she was right there, probably pretending to look at a photo while actually digging. It was calculated, a cold, hard betrayal. I tried to talk to her once. I called her 3 days after the confrontation with my parents. I needed to hear her admit it. Hey, Emily, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Oh, hey, David. What's up? Mom said you were a little upset the other day. Her voice was too sweet, too innocent. It was sickening. Upset? You call getting access to my private bank information and showing it to Mom and Dad a little upset? A pause. Not a guilty pause, but an annoyed one. Oh, that. Look, it was an accident. I was just checking something on your laptop, and the window was open. Bullshit, Emily. That window wasn't open. You searched for it, or you took a photo from my phone while I was sleeping. I want the truth. She immediately became defensive. Why are you being so dramatic? I saw it. Okay? And I was shocked. Why didn't you tell us you were a millionaire? Why the secrecy? We're your family. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It means I should be able to trust you, which clearly I can't. I snapped. And my finances are mine. I don't need to report my income to you or anyone else. But you have enough to solve all my problems. I've been struggling for years. David, why should you have all that money just sitting there when I'm about to lose my place? Don't you care about me? Her voice cracked, hitting that perfect emotional note she always used to manipulate Mom and Dad. Don't pull that victim card on me, Emily, I said, my jaw clenching. This is not about caring. This is about your choices and my hard work. And I will not give you 1 cent until you apologize for snooping and manipulating Mom and Dad. She hung up, just like that. The line went dead. No apology, no admission of guilt. Just rage that she wasn't getting what she demanded. The phone silence from my family lasted 2 more days. Then the passive aggression began. Martha sent me photos of Christmas decorations and recipes, as if nothing had happened, ending each message with a cheerful emoji. Robert sent a link to an article about the importance of generosity in family relationships. They were trying to pressure me back into the role of the good, compliant son. I ignored it all. This entire situation highlighted the massive, festering difference between me and Emily. I had spent my 20s coding until my eyes burned, taking risks, living minimally to reinvest. She had spent hers complaining about her lack of opportunities and demanding things. Now, my success had become her biggest grievance. My $2 million wasn't just money. It was evidence that hard work did pay off, and that was something she couldn't stand. I knew I couldn't skip Christmas. That would confirm all their accusations of being an egoist. So I called Martha 4 days before the 25th. "I'll be there on Christmas Eve," I stated, not asking, not negotiating. She sounded relieved, but also careful. "Good. Emily is coming too. We're going to be a family, David. Just try to be kind to your sister." "I'll be polite," I promised, but I knew politeness was the last thing I felt. I walked into their house on Christmas Eve, carrying gifts that suddenly felt pointless. The tension was palpable. Emily was already there, acting like the perfect, sweet daughter, helping Mom in the kitchen. She gave me a tight, fake smile. "Merry Christmas, David," she said, her eyes dead cold. "You too, Emily," I replied, just as stiffly. The real conflict hadn't even started yet, but the air was already thick with hostility. My parents were tiptoeing around the issue, treating me with an icy deference I wasn't used to. It was a silent war fought with strained smiles and overly polite conversation about the weather. I caught Emily looking at me multiple times, a calculating look, not a sisterly one. She was waiting for me to break, to apologize, to pay. And my parents were watching us both, ready to intervene in favor of the delicate one. I knew the moment the gifts were exchanged, the gloves would come off, and the real discussion about the $2 million would begin. I just didn't expect the utter brutality of their final statement. Christmas Day arrived, and the fragile peace of the evening before shattered instantly. We had the traditional dinner, turkey, cranberries, all the festive trimmings, but every bite tasted like ash. Emily kept up her performance, being overly affectionate with Martha and Robert, laughing too loudly at their old jokes, and completely ignoring me unless absolutely necessary. I, in turn, kept my responses minimal and polite, playing the role of the restrained older brother. But inside, I was a coiled spring. The emotional tension reached its peak when we moved to the living room to open gifts. It's always a big deal for my family. My parents bought Emily a very expensive digital tablet for her freelance work, something she'd been complaining she couldn't afford. She squealed and hugged them, making a big show of gratitude. They looked at me expectantly. I had bought them a weekend getaway package, a nice gift that showed I still cared, despite everything. They accepted it with a muted, almost dismissive thank you, the enthusiasm clearly gone. Then came the moment for my gift to Emily. I gave her a gift card to a major grocery store chain, enough for about 2 months of food. Practical, useful. It wasn't the $15,000 bailout she wanted, but it was help. She opened it, looked at the card, and her face went blank. "A grocery card, David?" she asked, her voice dripping with disappointed sarcasm. "Yes," I replied, meeting her stare. "I thought it was practical." She threw the card back into the box. "I don't need groceries, David. I need to keep my apartment. I need the money you have, not a coupon for cabbage." The room instantly went silent. This was the opening salvo. "Emily, that's enough," Robert said, but his tone lacked real authority. It was a warning shot, not a disciplinary action. "No, Dad, it's not enough," she shot back, turning to them, tears suddenly welling up perfectly in her eyes. "He's sitting on $2 million and giving me a grocery card while I'm losing everything. He's just being mean." I stood up, my fists clenched. "I'm being mean? You stole my private information, blackmailed me through our parents, and now you're throwing a tantrum because I didn't hand over $15,000 of the money I earned? Grow up, Emily. You earned it from pure luck," she screamed. "You happened to be in the right place at the right time. I work just as hard, but I don't have your opportunities. You're just selfish." "It was not luck, Emily. It was 8 years of grinding, of minimal salary while I reinvested every cent. You wouldn't understand hard work because you always quit the second things get tough." The years of resentment and frustration finally boiled over. Martha rushed over to Emily, pulling her into a dramatic hug. Stop it, David. Look what you're doing to your sister. You're upsetting her. Robert stepped in front of me, putting his hand on my chest, physically blocking me. That is enough. Both of you. The air was thick with fury, but then Robert did the unthinkable. He looked directly at me, his eyes hard and cold, and delivered the ultimate blow, the core of this entire conflict. We talked about this, David, this Christmas, and frankly, we agree with Emily. I felt like I'd been slapped. You agree with her? That I should just hand over my money? Yes, Martha whispered, clinging to Emily. Robert's voice was low, but every word was clearly articulated, designed to cut deep. Emily needs this money to establish herself. She's fragile, she's trying, but she keeps getting knocked down. You are established. You have $2 million. You don't need this money, you just want to hoard it. Emily is our daughter, David. She is struggling. And yes, she deserves a chance to be stable more than you deserve to simply watch that money grow in your account. I staggered back a step. The shock was absolute. This wasn't just about $15,000 anymore. It was about my entire worth in their eyes. The message was clear. My effort, my success, and my financial freedom meant nothing compared to Emily's perceived fragility and need. You think she deserves my money more than I do? I asked, my voice barely audible. In this situation, yes, Robert stated firmly. It would be an act of true selflessness. You have the ability to change her life right now, and you are choosing not to. That's why we believe Emily deserves the money more. She needs a head start to catch up, and you're in a position to give it to her. I looked at Martha, who avoided my gaze, patting Emily's back. I looked at Emily, who was now watching me with a smug, victorious expression. The tears were gone. They had allied against me. They had rewritten the moral code of our family to justify their greed and her irresponsibility. The brutal reality of their betrayal hit me. My parents didn't see me as a successful man who provided for himself. They saw me as a wallet that should be open for the designated victim of the family. The $2 million was an emotional weapon they were wielding against me. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just stared at the three of them, the united front of my family who had just declared me undeserving of my own success. I realized that my presence here was useless, and the negotiation was over. They had made their demand, and they had chosen their side. I had to make my move. A terrible, immediate decision had to be made about how to handle this betrayal that had just erupted on Christmas night. I stood there in the living room, the sting of Robert's words, "She deserves the money more," still vibrating in the air. The silence was thick, broken only by Emily's satisfied, sharp exhale. I didn't explode. I didn't scream. That would have given them the reaction they expected, the greedy egoist proving their point. Instead, a terrifying calm washed over me. I needed to leave, but before I did, I had to plant a seed of doubt, a massive, irreparable crack in their united front. I took a deep breath, looking straight at Robert. "Fine," I said, my voice low and steady. "You've made your position clear. You've chosen her, and you've chosen to judge my entire life's work based on a number you saw on a screen. But before I walk out of here, you need to understand one critical thing." Martha looked nervous now, sensing the shift in my demeanor. Emily just smirked, thinking I was about to cave and offer a compromise. "That $2 million, I continued, emphasizing the number. "It's not sitting in a savings account earning interest while I decide which yacht to buy. It's not disposable income. It's a lifeline, and you have no idea what it took to get that number or what it actually represents." Robert folded his arms, clearly ready to dismiss whatever justification I was about to offer. "It represents your success, David, which you're refusing to share with your family. It represents the end of my career," I said, hitting them with the first piece of the truth. The startup wasn't sold because we had a great year. It was sold because I was having a massive health crisis and could no longer handle the stress, the 16-hour days, or the relentless travel. I couldn't do it anymore. The sale was a forced exit. I pulled out my phone and quickly found the photo I was looking for. Not a bank statement, but a medical report. I tossed the phone onto the coffee table so they could all see the screen. "Read the diagnosis," I instructed, my eyes sweeping over their shocked faces. The report was from 3 weeks ago, just before the money hit my account. It was the result of a long, painful investigation into months of severe fatigue, crushing headaches, and recurring numbness in my hand. The diagnosis was not immediately fatal, but certainly life-altering. Stage 3 adrenal fatigue syndrome, with secondary complications affecting my nervous system. My doctor had been blunt. "The stress you were under nearly killed you, David. You need to be completely stress-free for at least a year. No work, no deadlines, no high-pressure environments. You need that time and that money to fully recover." They stared at the phone. The smug look had vanished from Emily's face, replaced by a flicker of fear and perhaps, just perhaps, momentary shame. Martha covered her mouth with her hand. Robert picked up the phone, his brow furrowed as he read the clinical language. "This is," Robert began, his voice losing its certainty. "This is why I sold the company, Dad. I finished for him. That $2 million isn't my nest egg for retirement. It's my 1-year sick leave fund. It's the only financial cushion I have to cover all my living expenses, my medical bills, and specialist treatment for the next 12 to 18 months, during which time I cannot work. It's the fund that pays for my recovery and ensures I don't collapse trying to hold down a job." I leaned in, my voice dropping to a harsh whisper that cut through the silence. "So, when you demand that I hand over $15,000 to bail out Emily from her self-inflicted mistakes, you are demanding that I actively deplete the funds I need to pay for my health, my stability, and my future. You are asking me to put my sister's debt above my own medical recovery." This was the moral dilemma, the ultimate cruel twist. They had judged my money as excess and greed. I had just revealed it was my survival kit. Emily finally found her voice, but it was weak. "But you'll still have enough, David. $15,000 isn't that much from $2 million. She was already calculating. Her immediate focus on the numbers, even now, was the final confirmation of her true character. I shook my head slowly, feeling pity mix with disgust. "You still don't get it, do you? It's not the amount, Emily. It's the principle. It's that you feel entitled to a single cent of the money that I nearly died earning. It's that Mom and Dad agreed with you. You proved, beyond any doubt, that if I ever actually needed help, you would all be the first to chip away at my resources, rather than protect me." I didn't wait for a response. I put on my coat. "You told me I wasn't being generous enough." I addressed my parents, who looked devastated and conflicted. "Emily needs the money more than I do," you said. "Well, now you know the truth about what that money buys. Think about who the truly deserving person is now. Think about whose decisions put them in a position of need." I opened the front door. "I'm leaving, and I want you all to spend the rest of Christmas thinking about the actual value of $2 million when it's all that stands between survival and collapse." I stepped out into the cold night, leaving the door slightly ajar behind me. I had dropped a bomb on their perfect Christmas, and I knew the fallout would be immense. But the question remained. Now that they knew the real cost of my money, would they demand I give it to Emily anyway? That was the final test. I drove home that Christmas night with the chilling echo of my own words ringing in my ears. I hadn't just told them about my health. I had weaponized my survival, throwing their moral hypocrisy back in their faces. I felt a bleak satisfaction, but it was quickly overshadowed by profound loneliness. The people who were supposed to be my safe harbor had just shown themselves to be scavengers, ready to pick clean the wreckage of my career. The next morning, December 26th, my phone was strangely quiet. No angry texts from Emily, no desperate calls from Martha. Just silence. This was worse than the shouting match. It meant they were processing, calculating, and ultimately deciding whether my medical crisis was a bigger moral weight than Emily's debt. Around noon, Robert called. I let it go to voicemail. I didn't want to hear another debate. He called again 10 minutes later. I answered this time, steeling myself. "David, it's Dad." His voice was heavy, drained of the aggressive certainty he'd had the night before. "I know," I replied flatly. "What do you want?" We read the report again, and we talked, all three of us. He paused, a long, dragging silence that was unusual for my normally decisive father. We didn't know, son. We truly didn't know you were that sick. We thought you were just playing the role of the secretive rich guy. The admission of guilt was there, but it was carefully packaged. They didn't know. Never, we were wrong to demand your money. And now you know, I said. So what's the decision? Does Emily still deserve my recovery fund more than I do? I needed to hear the words clearly. There was a muffled sound on his end. Then Emily's voice cut in, sharp and defensive. I still think you could help, David. It's still $2 million. You won't die without $15,000, but I will be homeless. The sheer audacity of her entitlement, even after knowing the stakes, was breathtaking. She hadn't changed at all. My diagnosis was just another variable in her constant financial equation. Suddenly, Martha's voice, strained and weak, took over. No, Emily. Stop. We are not asking David for the money. Do you hear me? We'll figure out your situation ourselves. You need to take responsibility. This was the true climax. Martha had finally stood up to Emily's manipulation, forced to do so only by the terrifying reality of my medical report. It wasn't love or fairness that changed her mind. It was fear. The fear of losing a son, or perhaps the fear of the moral weight of condemning him to financial ruin during a medical emergency. Robert returned to the line. David, your mother is right. We won't ask you for a cent. We are sorry for judging you and for letting Emily use us to pressure you. You need that money for your health. Focus on getting well. The resolution had arrived, but it felt hollow. They were retreating, not because they'd fully understood their breach of trust, but because the cost had suddenly become too high. I appreciate that, Dad, I said, but the thank you felt like a lie. I felt no relief, only the grim certainty of a relationship forever scarred. The next 2 weeks passed with minimal contact. Emily didn't call. Robert sent a few generic "How are you?" texts. Martha tried to schedule a dinner, which I politely postponed. I spent the time alone, focused on my specialist appointments and rest, using the funds exactly as they were intended. About 3 weeks after Christmas, on January 15th, I received an email from Emily. It wasn't an apology. It was a forwarded link to a crowdfunding campaign. Her campaign. The title read, Help Emily Escape Predatory Debt and Start Her Dream Career. The goal, $20,000. She hadn't learned a thing. She had just outsourced the responsibility, looking for new benefactors now that the family bank was closed. I didn't donate. I didn't reply. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had nearly destroyed my health and my life earning those $2 million, believing it would buy me peace and security. Instead, it had bought me the brutal, undeniable truth about my family's priorities. The money hadn't been the problem. It had merely been the magnifying glass that exposed the deep, pre-existing rot of entitlement and conditional love. I ended up cutting contact with Emily. With Martha and Robert, the relationship changed permanently. It became polite, distant, and transactional. We spoke maybe once a month. The $2 million was still in my account, slowly being drawn down for my recovery, my future uncertain but secured by that medical lifeline. The ultimate question I was left with, as I looked at my bank balance and then at the untouched medical reports on my desk, was this. Was the financial security worth the price of knowing the true, cold nature of my own family? The money allowed me to survive, but the knowledge it revealed made me realize that some things, like genuine, unconditional familial support, are infinitely more valuable and utterly priceless, even when compared to $2 million. And I had none of it.